the Joe Rogan Experience.
I don't want to do that to people. I don't want them to feel they have to have this experience. You can learn a lot about the mind. This book is as much about the mind as it is about psychedelics.
Right.
This is a book that uses psychedelics to explore this really interesting mystery called consciousness. And it's also exploring the nature of addiction, the nature of depression, all the illnesses that psychedelics turns out to be very helpful in. But I'm not holding a brief that people should do this. I'm not an advocate for psychedelics. I'm an advocate for the research at this point. I don't know enough to say, yeah, everybody should do this. This is what our culture needs. I'm not in that Timothy Leary head. I think we have a powerful agent that there's good data now that this can help heal people who are really suffering. And the other reason for the openness that's going on right now that surprised me, because I expected to get a lot of pushback from the psychiatric establishment, and I looked for it. I called around. I want to hear the critical voice on the Hopkins work or the NYU work. And what I kept hearing blew my mind. It was like, I remember calling the head of the National Institute of Mental Health to get what I thought would be a really negative quote about psilocybin research. And he was like, no, we have to look at this. This is really interesting research. Former heads of the American Psychiatric Association. And the reason they're so open to it is that mental health treatment in this country is just a mess. I mean, we only reach half of the people who are struggling with mental illness at all, have any exposure to the system. If you compare mental health treatment to any other branch of medicine, oncology, cardiology, infectious disease, it's accomplished very little. It hasn't prolonged lifespan. It's not saving lives. And yet we have soaring rates of depression. Depression is now the leading cause of disability worldwide. There are 300 million people with major depression or treatment-resistant depression in the world right now. And suicide rates are way up. Partly it's the vets, but in general, the taboo has come off suicide, and suicide is climbing rapidly, and addiction, as we know, is rampant. So they need some new tools. There hasn't really been innovation in mental health treatment since the early 90s, late 80s, with the introduction of the SSRI antidepressants, drugs like Paxil and Prozac. They need some new tools, and that's why they're open to this, and that's why I think it will be embraced eventually by the medical world.
Well, isn't it on the ballot in 2018 in California?
They haven't quite gotten it. They're doing their petition drive right now, and in Oregon too. And so I don't know that it'll get through this time. It's a weird item to put on the ballot because actually a small minority of people know what psilocybin is. When I on this show, you're the first person who said the ingredient didn't say the ingredient in magic mushrooms. You have some confidence that your audience knows what psilocybin is, but it's an unfamiliar word to most people. So I don't know how people vote on that.